Racist cops arrest black woman on plane. Her 8-year-old son fights back like a pro-lawyer. The shrill voice of the flight attendant echoed through the cabin, slicing through the low murmur of passengers settling into their seats. "Ma'am, I've already told you. This seat is not for you. Show me your boarding pass again." Vanessa Cole calmly handed over the same printed ticket she had shown minutes ago. She had just buckled in her 8-year-old son, Malik, next to her in the first row of business class. The seatbelt still lay across his tiny lap, unclicked, his fingers frozen in mid-motion as he sensed the tension in the air. The flight attendant didn't even glance at the paper before huffing and walking away, murmuring something into her intercom. 30 seconds later, the plane's front door reopened, and 2 uniformed officers, both white, both stone-faced, stepped inside. "Vanessa Cole?" one of them barked, eyes scanning the cabin. "You're under investigation for using a fraudulent ticket. Please step off the aircraft." Gasps flitted through the cabin like sparks in dry grass. Phones lifted, recording. Vanessa stood slowly, controlled, elegant even under fire. She placed a hand gently on Malik's shoulder. "You stay seated, baby," she whispered. "Mommy's going to fix this." But Malik stood too. "She didn't do anything wrong," he said, his voice clear and rising. "That's her seat. Our tickets are right. I can prove it." The cops paused. One of them raised a brow, amused. "This your lawyer?" he chuckled, nodding at Maliki. The boy squared his small shoulders. "I know my rights, and hers. You're acting outside jurisdiction. This is a federal flight and governed under DOT regulations, Title 49. Unless you've got evidence of a crime, you're violating passenger protections and federal law by detaining her without cause." The officers froze. The laughter that had been forming on one of their lips melted. A ripple passed through the cabin. Every eye was now on the boy. Vanessa's heart pounded. The officer tried to recover. "We have reasonable suspicion?" "What suspicion?" Malbalik interrupted. "A black woman in business class with her son. That's not a crime. That's a fact." The other officer shifted uneasily. "Son, let the adults handle this." "I'm not your son," Malik shot back, stepping in front of his mother. "And if you touch her without consent, I'll have it on video. And trust me, my mom has powerful friends who will see it in court." The cabin was now silent, but the air felt like it might crack. The lead officer's radio crackled. Dispatch was asking for status. He stepped aside and whispered into it. The second officer, now visibly sweating, glanced at the passengers with raised phones. One of them, an older black man in a suit, stood up and said, "I saw her show her ticket. She's where she belongs." Another passenger chimed in. "This is harassment, plain and simple." The officer's face hardened. "We'll deal with this at the terminal." He reached for Vanessa's arm. "Don't touch her!" Malik shouted, his voice breaking. The officer paused. Malik was trembling but didn't move. His tiny hands were balled into fists, his lips trembling as he spoke. "Is it because we're black? You wouldn't do this to a white woman and her kid. I read about it. My mom showed me." Vanessa's eyes welled with tears. She gently pulled Malik behind her. "I'll go," she said softly. "Don't make this worse for him." But the damage was already done. Passengers recorded everything as the officers escorted Vanessa off the plane, with Malik trailing behind her. The video would hit TikTok and Twitter within the hour, captioned, "8-year-old boy defends his mom like a lawyer on Delta flight. Racism in real time." As they reached the terminal, an airline supervisor tried to smooth things over. "It's all a misunderstanding," she said, avoiding eye contact. "We just needed to verify something with security." "I had a valid ticket," Vanessa replied. "Your gate agent scanned it. So did your flight attendant. There was no issue until she saw my face." "Ma'am, please." "Don't ma'am me," Vanessa said sharply. "You humiliated me in front of my son. In front of that entire plane. For what? You better pray the next call I make isn't to my attorney." The supervisor opened her mouth, but it was Malik who stepped in again. My mom worked in federal policy. She used to write aviation laws. You really messed up. The woman paled. You didn't know who she was, did you? He asked. You just saw her skin. Vanessa looked down at her son, stunned. He wasn't reciting her past like a parrot. He remembered. He knew. That night, while Vanessa sat quietly in a hotel room waiting for a formal apology that hadn't come, Malik curled up next to her on the bed, his little face still burning with anger. You okay, baby? She asked softly, running her fingers through his curls. They treated you like a criminal, he whispered. I know. They're gonna get away with it. She shook her head. Not this time. And from her purse, Vanessa pulled out a small black notebook, worn, creased, but full of names, laws, case files. She handed it to Malik. What's this? He asked. The playbook, she said. Now let's show them how real justice works. And that's how it began. Not with a courtroom, not with cameras or crowds, but with a boy and a woman sitting on a hotel bed, building their case. Not for revenge, but for change. The next morning, the sun hadn't even broken through the clouds when Vanessa sat at the edge of the hotel bed, already dressed in a sharp navy pantsuit. She sipped burnt coffee from a cardboard cup as Malik flipped through the black notebook she gave him the night before, his legs crisscrossed on the floor. There's a whole section in here about airline discrimination cases. He muttered, eyes moving quickly across the notes. Mom, this is incredible, Vanessa smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. That notebook helped me survive D.C. It's got the framework we need to take them on, if you're still up for it. He looked up at her, wide-eyed. I'm in. They headed downtown to meet someone she hadn't spoken to in 3 years. Sophia Lambert, a sharp, no-nonsense civil rights attorney with a reputation for slicing through red tape and torching bigotry in court. Sophia had been Vanessa's closest friend during her years at the Department of Transportation, until Vanessa resigned quietly and vanished from the spotlight after a bitter ethics battle she lost faith in. When Sophia opened the office door, she froze. Vanessa? Vanessa nodded, her eyes serious. I need your help. Malik stepped forward, clutching the notebook like it was sacred. And I brought the case. Sophia raised an eyebrow. Come in. Inside, Vanessa laid everything out. The flight, the false accusation, the arrest, the humiliation in front of her son. Sophia listened, stone-faced, until Malik pulled out the airline ticket and showed the security footage he'd managed to get from a passenger who sent it to his mom's email that morning. They dragged her off the plane, said the ticket was fake, Malik said, tapping the screen. But it's scanned. You can see the green light. Sophia folded her arms. Do you know how many cases like this I see each year? Maybe 2 get public attention. Maybe 1 wins. This one could. Vanessa nodded slowly. I don't want to just win, Sophia. I want them to feel it. Sophia hesitated, then picked up her phone. Then we'll start by filing an emergency complaint with the DOT. After that, we go public. Press, civil rights orgs, congressional aides. If they want to play dirty, we'll hit them with everything. Vanessa exhaled. It was happening. This wasn't just about her anymore. Later that evening, Malik was unusually quiet as they sat across from each other at a diner. His fork pushed a piece of pancake around his plate, untouched. Vanessa leaned in. What's going on in that brilliant little head of yours? He looked up. Are you mad at me? For speaking up? Her heart broke a little. No, baby. I'm proud of you. Braver than most adults I know. He nodded slowly. It felt right. Like something clicked in my head. Like all those law podcasts we listened to in the car. Like I could see their mistakes and I had to say something. Vanessa reached across the table and squeezed his hand. That voice in your head, that's your instinct. Don't ever lose it. Back at the hotel, Vanessa's phone buzzed. Sophia had sent her an email. Complaint filed. DOT. Confirmed receipt. Media brief drafted. Need your approval before I send it out tomorrow." She stared at the screen, then opened a text thread she hadn't touched in over a year. Her father. The last message he sent read, "You walked away from the fight. I hope you find peace." Now, she typed, "The fight found me again." No reply came, but she didn't need it. Across town, in the corporate offices of Pacific Air, a storm was forming. The airline's legal team had already flagged the viral video, which had passed 1 million views by noon. It had been shared by a sitting congresswoman, a celebrity lawyer, and even the National Bar Association, with the caption, "This 8-year-old knows the Constitution better than most cops." Inside the boardroom, the airline's PR head wiped sweat from her brow as the CEO, Nolan Briggs, barked, "How did no one verify the damn boarding pass before calling the police?" "It was verified twice," a junior analyst mumbled. "We've got it on record. She had a valid seat." Nolan's jaw clenched. "Then someone on our crew made a call based on her skin color. That's a discrimination lawsuit waiting to detonate." "What do we do?" someone asked. He stared at the screen, showing the boy's face frozen mid-sentence. "Damage control won't be enough this time." Meanwhile, Malik sat at the hotel desk, flipping through the notebook again. He'd begun scribbling in the margins. Ideas, arguments, names of witnesses from the flight. Vanessa watched him, torn between awe and heartbreak. She walked over, knelt beside him. "You know you don't have to do this, right? You're a kid. It's okay to be a kid." He looked at her, serious beyond his years. "They treated you like nothing. But you're not. You're everything. If I don't speak up, who will?" And just like that, Vanessa knew. This wasn't just her fight anymore. It was his too. A legacy she never meant to pass down, but one he chose to carry anyway. Outside, the sky darkened, and thunder rumbled in the distance. But inside, in that quiet hotel room, a mother and son were building a storm of their own. The press conference wasn't scheduled until noon, but by 10 a.m. there was already a crowd gathering outside Sophia Lambert's law office in downtown D.C. Cameramen were staking spots, wires tangled like vines, microphones perched on tripods like nervous birds. Inside the glass-paneled office, Vanessa paced while Malik sat beside Sophia at the long conference table, dressed in a navy blazer and button-down shirt, his tie slightly crooked. He fidgeted with a pen, flipping it through his fingers with quiet focus. "You ready, counsel?" Sophia teased lightly. Malik glanced up and grinned. "Born ready?" Vanessa stopped pacing, her heels clicking softly against the tile. "Malik, you don't have to speak if you don't want to. I can handle this." Malik gave her a look that was too old for his age. "You already have, Mom. But this time, I want them to hear me too." Sophia leaned in. "We're not putting him up there alone. He'll follow my lead. Just a short statement." Vanessa nodded, uneasy, but trusted Sophia. More importantly, she trusted Malik. Outside, the press conference began. Cameras clicked, flashes strobed, and microphones tilted forward. "Thank you for coming," Sophia began, her voice cutting through the noise. "What happened aboard Pacific Air Flight 2196 was not a misunderstanding. It was racial profiling. My client, Vanessa Cole, was a paying passenger, wrongfully accused, publicly humiliated, and arrested in front of her 8-year-old son. This is not just about one woman. This is about systemic injustice." She stepped aside, and Vanessa took the mic. Her voice wavered at first, but steadied quickly. "They told me my boarding pass was fake. It wasn't. They told me to step off the plane. I asked why. They couldn't answer. They said I was being disruptive. The only thing I disrupted was their expectation of what someone in first class should look like." The crowd murmured. Reporters raised hands. But then Malik stepped forward, taking the mic with small but certain hands. "My name is Malik Cole," he said, standing on a wooden box to reach the mic. I'm 8, and I watched my mom get taken off a plane like a criminal for doing nothing. I heard the rules they were quoting. They were wrong. A few laughs from the crowd, but mostly stunned silence. I've read the airline's passenger rights policy. I've read the ADA regulations. I've listened to more legal podcasts than most adults. What happened was wrong, and I'm going to prove it. Gasps broke out. Someone whispered, "Is this kid real?" Malik's confidence didn't break. You don't need to be a lawyer to know when someone's being treated unfairly. You just need to pay attention. Sophia gently ushered him back as cameras followed his every step. A clip of his speech would go viral within hours, triggering hashtags like #MalikForJustice and #year-old-lawyer. But for now, in that moment, he just looked up at his mom, smiling. Back inside, Vanessa hugged him hard. "You okay?" "I'm great," he said. They listened. And they had. Pacific Air's legal team scrambled to draft a statement, but they weren't the only ones panicking. In a cramped conference room inside the Metropolitan Police Department, 2 officers, Detectives Brennan and McNally, watched the clip in silence. They were the ones who'd cuffed Vanessa, eyes blank as she was dragged down the aisle. "She's not backing down," McNally muttered. "She's got a lawyer, a good one. And that kid's a media weapon," Brennan added. "What do we do if Internal Affairs starts sniffing? You better pray that video of us doesn't surface. If it does, we're screwed." Back at the hotel, Vanessa's phone blew up. Calls from strangers, messages from other black women with similar stories, supporters offering to fund the legal battle, an email from a famous civil rights historian asking to feature Malik on a podcast. Then came the email that made her freeze. From Daniel.Maynor@justice.gov. Subject, Urgent Inquiry. Vanessa, we've seen the press conference. Please contact me. There may be a way for the Civil Rights Division to support your case at the federal level. Regards, Daniel Maynor, U.S. Department of Justice. She hadn't heard that name in years. Daniel was a former colleague, one of the few she respected. If he was reaching out, this wasn't just another discrimination case anymore. It was a national concern. That night, Malik lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. "Do you think they'll fire the flight crew?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," Vanessa said, brushing his hair back, "but they'll have to answer for what they did." He turned toward her. "Do I have to become a lawyer now?" She smiled. "Only if you want to." He thought for a second. "I think I do." As he drifted off to sleep, Vanessa sat beside him, phone glowing in her hand. She reread Daniel's email, then opened a new message. To Daniel.Maynor@justice.gov. Subject, Urgent Inquiry. "Daniel, I'm listening. Let's talk." Vanessa. Outside their window, traffic hummed faintly. The world continued, unaware that in one quiet hotel room, a storm of justice was forming, this time with a little boy leading the charge. The next morning, Vanessa sat across from Daniel Maynor in a quiet corner booth at a cafe near the Department of Justice. Malik was back at the hotel with Sophia, busy preparing notes for his next legal plan, as he called it. Daniel looked older, but his eyes were sharp as ever. "Vanessa, what they did to you wasn't just wrong. It might have violated both federal civil rights laws and aviation regulations." She sipped her coffee slowly. "And now what? The airline will apologize and say they'll retrain their staff? That's not enough." He leaned in. "I don't want you to settle. I want you to take this as far as it can go. If you're willing, we can build a federal discrimination and false arrest case. DOJ support, public hearings, full pressure." Her eyes met his. "And if I say yes, we go public?" Daniel nodded. "We already are, but with our backing, it becomes systemic. Not just about you. We bring in other passengers, employees, dig into Pacific Air's history, dig into MPD's airport unit, the ones who cuffed you." Vanessa considered it. not just fighting for herself, but exposing the entire rot underneath. She nodded slowly. Let's do it. Meanwhile, Sophia and Malik sat in the hotel conference room surrounded by files, printouts, and sticky notes. Malik had a highlighter tucked behind one ear. Sophia smiled. You know, you've got the kind of mind that makes law school professors cry tears of joy. Malik grinned. I've been watching Supreme Court hearings instead of cartoons. That's got to count for something. But their laughter faded when Vanessa returned with the news. They're in, she told them. DOJ is taking it federal, but it's about to get way uglier. And she was right. That same day, Pacific Air's VP of Public Relations, Lauren Bridgman, released a statement on national television. We deeply regret the experience Miss Cole and her son endured. However, our flight crew acted under a false tip that her ID was flagged as suspicious. That tip did not originate with our airline. We are cooperating fully with authorities. The blame had just shifted. Vanessa stared at the screen. They're throwing someone else under the bus. Who tipped them? Sophia narrowed her eyes. Let's find out. She called an old friend in the airport security bureau, pushing gently but persistently. Within hours, she had what she needed. The tip came from an anonymous police source, routed through internal airport channels. This wasn't a mistake, she said. This was a setup. The question now was why. That evening, Vanessa received a text from an unknown number. You should stop digging. What happened was bad, but it'll get worse if you keep pushing. Some things are better left quiet. Malik read it over her shoulder. Are they threatening you? She put the phone down. No, they're warning me. Are we stopping? She looked at her son, so steady and sure. Not a chance. The next day, Sophia filed a motion in federal court. The case would now be heard publicly, with full media coverage. Vanessa's arrest would be re-examined and subpoenas would be issued to the arresting officers, the flight attendants, and Pacific Air executives. That same night, Officer McNally sat at his desk at the precinct, pale as he watched the news flash across the screen. Court filings reveal officers detained Vanessa Cole based on non-existent probable cause, the anchor read. Brennan cursed under his breath. She's coming for us. You mean the DOJ's coming for us? McNally slammed a drawer shut. We followed the call. It wasn't our fault. Except that we never verified the ID report, and we cuffed her in front of her kid. Silence stretched between them like a threat. Meanwhile, Daniel arranged for a private meeting between Vanessa and the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. There, Vanessa laid out every detail, while Malik listened closely, his fingers scribbling on a notepad beside him. Did you know, Malik said softly, that the Air Carrier Access Act prohibits discriminatory treatment in any part of the airline process, including boarding and in-flight service? The official smiled. I do now. As they left the building, Malik tugged on Vanessa's sleeve. They're scared, aren't they? Yes, she said, glancing behind her, and they should be. That evening, Sophia walked into Vanessa's hotel room with a heavy file in her hands. We got something. A whistleblower from the airline. One of the junior attendants contacted me anonymously. She opened the folder. Inside were transcripts of internal group messages between flight attendants, screenshots showing mockery about Vanessa's hair, her tone, her fake designer purse. But more than that, a message from one attendant stating, that woman in 2A looks off. I told security she might be using someone else's ticket. Vanessa clenched her fists. They wanted me off that plane the moment I sat down. Sophia nodded. And now we have proof. But the biggest shock came at the bottom of the file. Another message, dated just days before the incident. This'll be my last flight. I'm done covering for McNally's people. I'm out before someone else gets hurt. Vanessa blinked. McNally? The cop? Sophia's face darkened. This is bigger than we thought. Now it wasn't just about a flight. It was about a network of collusion between airline staff and officers, a system that chose who belonged and who didn't, and Vanessa had just pulled back the curtain. The press conference room at the Justice Building buzzed with tension. Reporters from major outlets crowded in, cameras trained on the podium. Vanessa Cole stood to the side, composed in a tailored navy blazer, her natural curls pinned back. Malik sat on a folding chair in the front row, feet dangling, a notepad on his lap. The DOJ spokesperson stepped to the mic. "We are officially opening a civil rights investigation into the wrongful arrest of Ms. Vanessa Cole and potential systemic discrimination involving both the MPD airport unit and Pacific Air staff." Murmurs rippled through the room. "Questions will be taken shortly." Vanessa took a breath. She wasn't just a target anymore. She was a symbol. And with every headline, more people came forward. Passengers, ex-employees, even a retired gate supervisor who said he'd seen similar cases swept under the rug. That night, back at the hotel, Malik flipped through a stack of articles while Vanessa reviewed affidavits from witnesses. "Mom," he said suddenly, "can I show you something?" She looked up. Of course. He opened his iPad to a video file, footage from inside the plane, shaky but clear. A passenger in first class had captured everything. The moment the flight attendant whispered to another, the quiet call to someone off-screen, the police storming in and cuffing Vanessa as passengers watched silently. At the end of the video, Malik's voice was heard yelling, "You can't do that! You didn't even read her rights!" Vanessa's throat tightened. "Where did you get this?" "Reddit. Someone posted it anonymously. They tagged it Justice for Cole." Sophia, sitting nearby, leaned forward. "This is game-changing. We can introduce this into discovery. It contradicts both the airline and police statements." Daniel called 2 hours later. "The assistant AG wants the video. The team's moving fast. You may be testifying in less than a week." Vanessa's heart raced. "What about the threats?" "We're assigning a marshal to your hotel, but I have to warn you, some of the officers under investigation aren't just panicking. They're looking to discredit you." He wasn't wrong. The following morning, a conservative tabloid ran a headline, "Vanessa Cole's Real Past, Connections to Activist Extremists?" The article was a smear, full of half-truths and twisted facts. Photos of her at peaceful protests were framed as anti-police rhetoric. One image showed her with a raised fist at a civil rights march. Sophia threw the paper across the room. "They're playing dirty." Vanessa remained calm. "Good, that means they're scared." But what shook them most was when the airline's own legal counsel reached out, not with threats but with a request. "Ms. Cole," the voice said over speakerphone, "our CEO would like to meet with you privately. No lawyers, just a conversation. We believe this situation spiraled." Vanessa laughed bitterly. "You believe I was publicly humiliated, falsely arrested, and threatened because things got spiraled?" Sophia cut in. "We decline. Any discussions will happen in court." That same afternoon, Malik went with Sophia to prep for Vanessa's testimony. As he waited outside the conference room, he struck up a conversation with a man named Calvin Stokes, a retired aviation compliance officer who had seen the viral video. "I used to audit that airline test," Calvin said. "That gate team, especially the one who made the false report. She's had complaints before." Malik's eyes widened. "Can you write that down?" Calvin grinned. "Already did, and I've got more." By evening, Vanessa's legal team had everything they needed to paint a clear timeline: the racial profiling, the whispered calls, the lies in the arrest report, and now a history of prior incidents covered up internally. They were ready to go to war. But then the twist came. The DOJ clerk dropped off a sealed document at their suite. When Vanessa opened it, her blood ran cold. It wasn't evidence. It was a counter-allegation, filed by Officer McNally himself. He was suing Vanessa for defamation. He's trying to flip this, Sophia whispered. Daniel arrived minutes later, furious. This is a last-ditch stunt. It won't hold, but they're trying to intimidate you into silence. Malik looked up from his seat. Then they don't know my mom. That night, Vanessa stood by the window of their room, watching the city lights. I didn't choose this fight, she murmured. I think it chose you, Malik said from behind her. And you're winning. She turned, her eyes misty. You still believe that, he nodded. You're the bravest person I know, and I've read about Harriet Tubman. She laughed softly, pulling him into a hug. Tomorrow they would head into court, the nation watching. And no matter what the system threw at them, they were ready. Because the truth was on their side, and this time it had a voice. A loud, young, unshakable voice. The courtroom was packed, buzzing with tension as the trial of Vanessa Cole versus Pacific Air and the Metro Police Department began. National media lined the gallery. Protesters outside held signs with Malik's drawing printed on them. A picture of his mom in handcuffs and the words, she deserved a seat, not a cell. Vanessa entered through the side door, flanked by Sophia and Daniel. She wore a charcoal gray pantsuit, her hair natural and regal, her eyes calm but razor-sharp. Malik sat on the bench just behind her, dressed in a little blazer and tie, his iPad balanced on his lap like it was sacred. Judge Carla Whitman called the court to order. She was a seasoned federal judge, known for her tough but fair rulings. Counsel, she nodded. Let's begin. Daniel stood first, laying out the timeline, the profiling, the lack of probable cause, the unlawful detainment. Then he introduced the passenger video, showing exactly how Officer McNally had entered the plane, barked orders, cuffed Vanessa without any verbal warning, and dragged her down the aisle in front of stunned passengers. We will prove not only misconduct, Daniel said firmly, but a coordinated effort to silence, embarrass, and intimidate a woman for daring to question authority. We will show that justice was not just denied, it was twisted. The defense tried to discredit the video, questioning its authenticity, but Sophia had anticipated that. She called the original uploader to the stand, a tech worker named Jay Lin, who happened to be sitting in business class that day. It's mine, Jay confirmed. Unedited. Time-stamped. If you want, I can explain the file's metadata right here. The defense declined. Then came a surprise twist. Officer McNally's own body cam footage, initially reported as lost, had been recovered by an internal whistleblower, and that footage told a different story than McNally's report. In the video, McNally is seen standing by the cockpit, listening to a flight attendant whisper, "She's in 7A. She doesn't look like she belongs there. Says she's some consultant." McNally had nodded, adjusted his belt, and muttered, "Yeah, let's check that out. Could be one of those internet types trying to fake it." No law broken, no disturbance, just a bias-fueled assumption. Sophia played the footage slowly, then froze the frame on McNally's face as he smirked, walking toward Vanessa. The courtroom went silent. Judge Whitman leaned forward. "Is this the same officer who claimed he was responding to a violent threat?" The defense attorney fumbled. "Your Honor, context." "Save it," Walt Whitman said coolly. "Continue, Ms. James." Then came the most unexpected moment yet. Malik asked to testify. The court hesitated. "He's 8, the judge noted. "He's also the one who witnessed everything and can speak to the emotional trauma," Daniel said. "We've reviewed his statement. He's prepared." Judge Whitman looked to Vanessa. "You're the parent. Do you consent?" Vanessa turned to Malik. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "I want them to hear me." Taking the stand, Malik sat upright in the chair, legs too short to reach the floor. The courtroom collectively leaned in. "What did you see that day, Malik?" Sophia asked gently. He took a breath. "I saw a man treat my mom like she was dangerous when she was just reading. I asked him why, and he told me to sit down like I didn't matter. But I do matter." The judge blinked. And my mom matters too. She always says laws are supposed to help people, but it felt like nobody cared about laws that day. Sophia asked, "How did it make you feel?" "Scared, but mostly mad, because I know what rights are. I study them. I want to be a civil rights lawyer." A quiet gasp went through the room. "And when I grow up," Malik said clearly, "I want to make sure kids like me don't have to beg someone to see their parents as human." Judge Whitman was silent. Then, finally, she nodded. "Thank you, Malik. That was very brave." As he stepped down, people in the gallery began clapping before the bailiff hushed them. Later that afternoon, the defense attempted to pivot, accusing Vanessa of provoking the staff by questioning airline protocol. But Sophia countered with security logs showing that Vanessa never raised her voice and that the gate agent had previously filed false incident reports about black passengers being disruptive. The trial was unraveling for the defense. McNally's face had turned pale, sweat dotting his collar. The flight attendant refused to testify. The airline CEO issued a half-hearted apology on Twitter, but it was too little, too late. Back at the hotel that night, Malik hugged Vanessa tightly. "You did great today," he said. She smiled, brushing his curls aside. "You did better." Sophia walked in with a stack of emails. Public support's exploding. Civil rights groups are filing briefs. A senator even reposted the courtroom video of Malik's testimony. Vanessa sank into the couch. "We might actually win this." Sophia gave her a hard look. "We're not just winning, Vanessa. You're changing the game." But victory wasn't just about headlines. Vanessa knew that. She wanted more than justice for herself. She wanted reform. And the final days of the trial would decide if the court wanted that too. The courtroom was more crowded than ever. National attention had turned this into a cultural flashpoint. News vans lined the block. Law students, civil rights attorneys, and even former judges filled the gallery. But Vanessa stayed focused on what mattered most: justice for what happened to her and for what it meant for others like her. Sophia had been working non-stop. Her desk in the hotel room looked like a war map: sticky notes, highlighted affidavits, timelines connecting witness names to contradicting statements. Malik, who was now dubbed the Young Justice by social media, had gone viral, but Vanessa kept him close, grounding him in reality. "I'm not a hero," Malik whispered to his mom that morning. "You're my hero," she whispered back, "but today let the truth speak loudest." The day's key witness was Captain Ellis, the pilot of Flight 782. No one had heard from him until now. The defense had tried to block his testimony, claiming he had been unavailable, but Sophia had tracked him down in Colorado, and what he had to say would change everything. Under oath, Captain Ellis looked visibly uncomfortable. "Do you remember the incident involving Ms. Vanessa Cole?" "Yes." "And who called for law enforcement?" He shifted. "It wasn't me. I was told by a senior flight attendant that a disruptive passenger was in 7A, and we needed to remove her before takeoff." "Was there any disruption from the cockpit's perspective?" "No," he had admitted. "Not from Ms. Cole. I saw her board quietly, sit in her seat, and begin reading. She even helped another passenger with an overhead bag." Sophia leaned in. "Then why did you comply with the removal?" "I trusted my crew. I regret that now." "Did you hear or see the arrest?" "I saw it from the cabin camera. She was calm. Her son was crying, and I should have said something. I was the highest-ranking authority on that aircraft. I failed her." Silence. "Do you know what bias looks like, Captain?" He hesitated. "I didn't, but now I do." The courtroom held its breath. It was rare to see anyone in uniform admit failure on record, but it didn't stop there. Sophia presented a sealed memo retrieved through a legal loophole, an internal airline email chain that revealed staff had been monitoring possible first-class imposters based on a flawed profiling algorithm. Passengers flagged included several people of color who had upgraded their tickets last minute using reward points or corporate partnerships. One of the red-flagged names on the list was Vanessa Cole. This wasn't random, Sophia said to the jury. It was systemic. And then came the twist. Just before recess, Daniel received an urgent message on his phone. He excused himself, returning minutes later with a grim expression. "We've just received confirmation," he announced in court. "Officer McNally has been placed under internal investigation, not just for this incident, but for 5 prior complaints of racial bias during detainments." All swept under the rug. Gasps echoed across the courtroom. Sophia turned to McNally, who now looked like a cornered animal. His defense team began whispering furiously, clearly blindsided. As McNally was recalled to the stand, he visibly sweated. Sophia kept her tone steady but piercing. "Officer, do you deny threatening Ms. Cole and her son without justification?" "I was following protocol." "Which protocol? The one that said, treat first-class black passengers as threats?" "Objection, overruled. Do you recall telling her son to sit down and be quiet before he ends up in handcuffs too?" McNally swallowed. "I was trying to de-escalate." "Is that what you call intimidation? Because that child was 8 years old, officer." "8, and more professional than you," McNally fumbled. "I didn't mean," Sophia pressed. "You didn't mean to get caught." It was brutal, but it was justice. After court, Vanessa stood quietly in the hallway, her hands trembling slightly. Malik slipped his hand into hers. "They know the truth now," he said. "I know, baby," she replied softly, "but truth doesn't always mean justice." Back in their hotel suite, Sophia received an unexpected visitor, Assistant U.S. Attorney Jacob Raymond. He had been monitoring the case. "I came to say this isn't over," he said. "What do you mean?" Vanessa asked. "We're opening a federal inquiry into both the police conduct and the airline's profiling systems, and we want you, Ms. Cole, to consult with us, help shape better protocols." Vanessa was stunned. "You mean use my experience to help prevent this?" Raymond nodded. "It's already causing waves in Congress. You've become a symbol, but symbols aren't enough. We need structure." Later that night, as Malik slept soundly, Vanessa stepped onto the balcony and looked out over the glowing city lights. It had started with a flight. It had turned into a fight. And now it was the beginning of a movement. She wasn't just reclaiming her seat. She was helping redesign the entire cabin. The courtroom was silent as the jury returned. Every eye in the room was locked on the foreperson, a woman in her late 50s, gripping the verdict form with the weight of justice itself. Vanessa's heart pounded, her hands resting on the bench in front of her, Malik's small palm pressed gently against hers. Sophia sat straight, still and composed, like a blade waiting to cut through history. The judge nodded. "Madam Foreperson, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?" "We have, Your Honor," she stood. "In the matter of Cole v. Metro PD and North Stream Airlines on the charge of unlawful detainment and racial discrimination, we find in favor of the plaintiff, Vanessa Cole." A gasp rippled through the gallery. The forewoman wasn't done. "Furthermore, we award punitive damages of $4.5 million against both the police department and airline, and recommend full review of internal procedures." Cheers broke out. Reporters scrambled. The judge struck his gavel, calling for order, but the emotion in the room was uncontainable. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Malik squeezed her hand tighter, smiling with something deeper than pride, relief. Sophia turned to Vanessa. "We didn't just win, we made history." The courtroom cleared slowly. Some jurors came to shake Vanessa's hand. Others asked Malik for autographs, half joking, but deeply sincere. As they stepped into the sunlight, the crowd outside erupted in applause. People held signs, "Justice for Vanessa," "Let Black Women Fly," "My son, my lawyer." Vanessa paused, taking it all in. Malik tugged her sleeve. "Mom, can we get ice cream now?" She laughed, genuinely, deeply. "Baby, we can buy the whole truck." News anchors swarmed them, but one question made her stop. "Ms. Cole, what do you want people to remember most about today?" She looked down at Malik, then straight into the camera. "That we're not just passengers. We're people. We deserve dignity at 30,000 feet and right here on the ground. This wasn't just about me. It was about all the people who've been silenced, humiliated, or overlooked. My son reminded me that even at 8 years old, you can speak truth to power. And now, so must we all." The camera held on her as the moment burned into national memory. Later that month, Vanessa was invited to speak before a congressional committee on aviation reform. Malik sat behind her in a little suit again, drawing in a sketchbook labeled Justice League, Real Life Edition. She told her story one more time. But this time it wasn't just for her. It was for the single mom who couldn't afford a first-class ticket and still got questioned. It was for the grandfather removed from a flight for looking suspicious. It was for the child who saw their parent handcuffed for daring to sit in a paid seat. And it was for those who would come after. She pushed for a national transparency system in flight security profiling, for independent review panels, and for bias training that actually meant something. Her testimony sparked headlines. Her grace inspired petitions. Her truth challenged policy. In the weeks that followed, Officer McNally was officially dismissed from duty, his pension suspended. The airline CEO issued a public apology on live TV. Internal systems across the country began reevaluating their passenger behavior alerts. But change came with resistance. Comment sections filled with both praise and denial. Some asked why a child had to be the one to correct a system built by adults. And in a way, that was the entire point. One night, while tucking Malik into bed, Vanessa looked at her son and asked, "Do you ever wish none of this happened?" He shook his head. "No, because then no one would have listened." And with that, she knew they'd both grown, not just through trauma, but through the fire of standing up. She kissed his forehead. "You did good, counselor." The next morning, a new envelope arrived. It was from a prestigious law school, Harvard, offering Malik a full scholarship when he came of age, calling him a future voice of justice. He had 10 years to go, but somehow everyone already knew. This wasn't just a story about a black woman arrested on a plane. This was a story about truth rising when no one expects it, about a child's voice breaking through walls built by prejudice, about how a moment of injustice can birth a lifetime of purpose, and that's the legacy they chose. So if you've ever been silenced, if you've ever felt overlooked or dismissed, if you've ever been told you didn't belong where you paid to be, let this be your reminder. Speak up, fight back, and never underestimate who's listening. Because justice doesn't always wear a badge or a suit. Sometimes it wears Velcro sneakers and carries a superhero backpack. If this story moved you, share it, talk about it, and follow our channel for more real stories where the underestimated rise, and truth always finds a way to speak. Your voice matters. Let it be heard.